Here we are, Alex, with the second episode of Cut to the Chase. What's the topic for today?
You don't know anything about any topic today?
I have no idea.
You have no idea. Like, I surprised you during my preparations and...
I swear this is not staged.
Have you ever heard about something called Wikileaks or someone called Julian Assange?
Yeah.
So that's the story of an organization that has for 15 years released classified documents in the aim of information towards the public opinion. And this organization has faced several difficulties, especially its founding members, Julian Assange.
Okay, so I think it's better to start with Wikileaks.
I think you're totally right.
What is Wikileaks?
We can maybe divide the name in two parts. You have wiki and you have leaks, because wiki means like an internet collaborative website or platform. Everybody can collaborate, send something in the internet. And leaks, it's about when you reveal documents or information that is not supposed to be revealed. So you have this organization called Wikileaks.
This Wikileaks, is it somehow related to or inspired from Wikipedia?
Wikipedia, it's about a collaborative encyclopedia, and WikiLeaks, it's a collaborative platform where you can send leaks.
To me, there is a sense of professionality as well.
Exactly, like they have a platform, the WikiLeaks website, on which any source can transmit an information they have, and thanks to their encrypted system, the source is protected, so we don't know from where the document comes from. I mean, they have this protection of source that is important in information matters. And then WikiLeaks, depending on the importance of those revelations, of those leaks, they decide or not to publish them. So you have, let's say, the people who share the information, then you have those people from WikiLeaks trying to understand if the information is acceptable or not to be published, and then at the end you have the general opinion. So they act like, let's say, an intermediary between the origin of the information and the delivering of the information. Julian Assange is often considered as a whistleblower. What a whistleblower is like someone revealing important information that are of public interest, and that's exactly how WikiLeaks define themselves, and how Assange also defines himself. For instance, one of the biggest cases in WikiLeaks, it happened in 2010. It's something that has been called the war logs. What happened in this case is that it's a US Army intelligence analyst that sends those documents to WikiLeaks.
So who was this guy?
So this guy was called Bradley Manning, and so he worked for the US Army, and he decided to share documents with Julian Assange on the Afghan war and the Iraq war. And then Julian Assange, he decided to share those documents with The Guardian for the UK, Der Spiegel in Germany, and the New York Times in the US.
Okay, and what this guy shared?
The biggest leak that happened, first of all, was in April 2010. And it was a video called Collateral Murder. Basically, it's a video that was shot in 2007 in Iraq, in southern neighborhood in Baghdad. And this is a video coming from an Apache, that is an helicopter used by the US Army.
Roger that. We have no personnel east of our position, so you are free to engage over.
What do you see on this video is a group of people, most of them unarmed, civilians, and they are shot by this helicopter. So it demonstrates a war crime of the US Army that happened in the 2007.
I think I saw that video.
I'm sure you saw it. It really looks like a Call of Duty video. And so what happens, you see those US soldiers shooting at this group of people on the ground, and like laughing about it, and you see really like the cruelty or the fact that they really don't care about what's happening there. On those footages you see that they have killed 18 people, including a majority of civilians, including 2 Reuters journalists. And so that has made, of course, when it was released, an important impact, because lots of people didn't know this information. So it's really the starting point, April 2010.
2010 or 27?
So the video is about 2007, and the release has been made in 2010. It's really the start of what has been called the war logs, the Afghan war logs and the Iraq war logs. It was more than 500,000 of documents leaked. They show the mistakes, the errors, the crimes that were made by the US Army. Evictions, tortures, kidnappings, and put a light on the real number of civilian casualties that happened during that time. What the documents showed is that there has been around 180,000 civilian casualties, much more than what the US claimed at that time.
One question is here appears. Is it illegal to leak those things if you see that they did some kind of crimes there?
I think you have just touched the most fundamental question about Wikileaks and Julian Assange in general. If we sum up, we have two narratives on those leaks. On one side, you have the information. The public has to know. I mean, the public is in right to know what happened there. Like, if war crimes were committed, it makes sense to release those leaks. On the other side, if you are the US government, of course not, because you know, like, it endangers a lot of your actions, a lot of your policies. This has damaged the US reputation in the world, and it still continues to do so. The US, what they said is like, you have compromised US documents, you have leaked classified secret files that were not supposed to be revealed. So it's one of the major actors in Wikileaks and Julian Assange story, the United States. You can imagine the extent to which the United States is able and willing to engage and sue Julian Assange for those leaks. It's like millions of documents that have been revealed for years now and that have compromised the superpower, the United States.
But Assange is getting charged also for this leak?
So Julian Assange is charged in the US at the time we're speaking with 18 federal charges, notably conspiracy, hacking, and spying. What the US wanted to do is like to make of Julian Assange an example, to show that, okay, you can't fuck with us, even if it's already done, but by revealing those secrets, you have to pay the price. And so I have a question for you. So I told you that the US Department has indicted Assange with 18 criminal charges. Do you know what it corresponds to in terms of jail time in the US? Maximum.
For the lifetime sentence, I don't know, maybe 30 years, 40 years?
More than that.
80.
More than that.
100.
More than that.
150.
More than that.
Man, like 200.
If he is judged in the US and he gets the maximum sentence for each of those charges, he can get up to 175 years of jail. The thing is, he really doesn't want to go to the United States because he knows that first he can spend his whole life in prison, and he knows that his treatment in prison may not be the same treatment as a normal prisoner. So that's why he's not yet in the US, because it's difficult, like me, to remake all the story of Assange. So he's an Australian citizen. In 2010, he was visiting Sweden, and you have two women accusing him of rape and of sexual harassment. And it's the moment where the stories starts to diverge, because he said that it was willingly, and the women, they promote another version of the story. So charges are open, and a case is open against him in Sweden, but there is not enough proof. So the case is closed and Assange is free to move somewhere else. And he's moving to the UK. So remember, the war logs are already starting to be released. So it has already made big scandals in the US and in the world in general. When he's in the UK, the Swedish judiciary system reopens the case of Assange, and they deliver an international arrest warrant when he's in the UK. And so what happened is, like, in December 2010, Assange is arrested by the UK police, and he has different hearings. And at the end of the second hearings, he is liberated under bail. That means someone had to pay a caution for his release. So he's still in the UK, living there. And the year 2011 is really the moment where things starts to be a bit weird. In a further hearing in the UK, in 2011, you have a judgment saying that Assange should be extradited to Sweden. The point is, Assange, he always said that he was willing to go to Sweden and face the charges. But he has always feared that if he's going to Sweden, then Sweden will extradite him to the United States. That was the biggest issue for Assange, because he was prosecuted in the United States, and for nothing he would like to go there. But you probably remember that Assange was somewhere in London for some years. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
2012 is the crucial moment for Assange. At the end of May, you have the Supreme Court in the UK that said, yes, Assange could be extradited to Sweden and then possibly extradited to the United States. And that's where things are going really crazy. So Assange, what he decides to do, he decides to ride to the Ecuadorian embassy in London and ask for the diplomatic asylum, meaning he will be protected by the state of Ecuador and cannot be transferred to Sweden.
For the sake of cutting to the chase, Julian Assange, first he reveals something, and few months after that big revelation, he moves to Sweden. And in Sweden, he has this sexual harassment charges. He moves to UK, and while he is in the UK, there is a international arrest warrant issued by Sweden. That's why he gets in the court in the UK, but blah blah blah, he bails out and stuff. Then, instead of going to Sweden, he just runs to Ecuador embassy and hides there.
When the judgment of the UK Supreme Court was given, he had to give himself to the justice. Assange never showed up. The UK prosecuted Assange because he failed to surrender to the court. That's the exact term. And so you have this period of more than 2 weeks where Assange is trying to find a way out. And the way out is called the Ecuadorian embassy in London. And he arrived there on June 19, 2012.
Wow, that's exactly 1 month before my birthday.
Great. And so, yeah, the Ecuadorian government, they decided to grant him this diplomatic asylum. They were fearing that his human rights might be violated if he was extradited to Sweden and then extradited, of course, to the US. Also, they granted him the diplomatic asylum because it was kind of a US anti-imperialism at that time in Ecuador.
Okay, Alex, cut to the chase.
Starting from June 19, 2012, he is living in the Ecuadorian embassy. He has been living there for 7 years. And if you are Julian Assange, you cannot go out. Because if you just go out of the Ecuadorian embassy, the UK police, they take you straight away. You go to prison, you get judged, you go to Sweden, and maybe you go to the US. Julian Assange, he remains in this situation for 2,487 days. In 30 meters square, with cameras, with no possibilities to go out, to take the sun, to go to restaurants, I don't know, to go to cinema.
During that period of 7 years in embassy, did he keep revealing some secret information?
If you look at what Wikileaks did at the time where Assange was in the embassy, they continued to release some documents.
If he is locked up in the embassy, how he is doing that?
So Assange is the main character in this story, in the Wikileaks history. He had internet, of course, in the embassy, but he has also a very small team of people on which he is really related to, really close, sharing, trusting them with a lot of confidence. And also this team helps the functioning of Wikileaks. So those leaks that happened when he was in the Ecuadorian embassy, they also have been permitted because he had some hands helping him. For instance, in July 2012, just after Assange entered the embassy, you had the Syria files about how some companies had collaborated with Bashar al-Assad regime. Then you had also revelations about how presidents and political figures were spied by the CIA, notably French presidents Jacques Chirac, Nicolas Sarkozy, and François Hollande.
Can you please say the Hollande again?
François Hollande. And so what was revealed is that the CIA was listening the public conversations of those presidents, but also the private ones. We say in France, it's a secret de polichinelle. We know that countries, they spy on each other.
Ça va sans dire.
But it's dangerous, you know? Also, the 2016 US presidential campaign was marked, we know, by the leaks of Clinton's emails, etc. And Wikileaks is this organization who revealed the Democratic National Committee emails. I mean, in the US, you have to understand the thing that they are already pissed off of Assange since 2010, of the war logs of Afghanistan and Iraq.
And cutting to the chase?
Cutting to the chase, those leaks, they took place in the middle of the US campaign. That's also at this moment, I think, his image has very changed from a whistleblower to a traitor. He was perceived as working only for one side, you know, like revealing US secrets, US documents for years. Then he's like going against Clinton. Many make the connections between Assange and the Russians. And he was seen as a supporter of Trump. He has said that he would have been happy also to share some leaks about Trump, but the sources he had, they gave him leaks about Clinton.
If you had to describe Julian Assange's political views using 3 words, what would they be?
Extremist libertarian of information. Because he believes that whatever information he has, verified, no matter whom it's going to affect, he's going to share it. That's one of his fundamental principle.
Okay, and then we come to 2019.
On April 11, 2019, the UK police came to the Ecuadorian embassy to take Julian Assange.
But why?
That's a good question. Why did they wait close to 7 years? To understand this change, we have to understand Ecuador first, because it's Ecuador that is protecting Julian Assange. You know that you have some elections sometimes in countries, and sometimes the president changes, and sometimes international views are not the same. And that's exactly what happened during the presidential election in April 2017 in Ecuador. The guy who won, he was more willing to collaborate with the United States.
After the government changed, they just shipped Julian Assange to the UK police.
Concretely, they didn't ship him, let's say the police came to take him.
Sorry, huh?
On April 11, 2019, Ecuadorian government, they made official the fact that they withdrew the statute of political refugee, this diplomatic asylum that was granted to Julian Assange for close to 7 years. The new president, Lenin Moreno, he has used a pretext. The following months of his election, revelations were accusing Moreno and his relatives of corruption. And Moreno, he strongly believed, or he appeared to believe, that it was Wikileaks that revealed this scandal. When this new president came into function in Ecuador, the conditions of Assange in the embassy became more and more difficult. They turned the embassy into a prison, and they made the things in a way that it would create tensions, and so to find at the end a justification to withdraw this diplomatic asylum.
For the sake of cutting to the chase.
So all those things, degrading conditions, closer to the US government and so on, made that on April 11, 2019, Ecuador decided to withdraw this diplomatic asylum to Julian Assange, and the UK police took him, put him in prison in London, where he is still today imprisoned.
So why we are discussing this guy now?
Because it's still part of the actuality. This question of the extradition of Assange remains the main point. In January 2021, you had a UK district court that decided to refuse the extradition of Julian Assange on the motives that his mental health was really poor and that he is in risk of committing a suicide. The US, they appealed the decision. And at the end of 2021, you have the authorization by the UK High Court for the extradition of Assange. But Julian Assange is making an appeal because he can still go towards the Supreme Court. In March 2022, the appeal of Julian Assange was refused. So what's the situation now? We are nearly at the half of 2022. Julian Assange is still in the UK, so he's still in prison. And now it's becoming less and less probable that the UK will oppose the request of extradition that has been put by the US. It could set a dangerous precedent to extradite someone to another country because this country wants them for the information they released about this country. What about an opponent in Argentina releasing bad information about Russia? Then Russia can say, hey, look, like this Assange guy, you did exactly the same thing, so we are in the right to do so. It could set a precedent in law.
That's an excellent point. Yes. Wow.
If it happens, what's the limit then? The whistleblowers, they will never be protected again.
Do you see this case as something against free journalism, free media?
It is definitely a case against the freedom of information. Then comes the question of what information you're supposed to release. It has been a question for years, decades, and we won't probably solve this right now. I think there is a big difference also between someone publishing an information he has been provided with and someone spying. Because when you are provided with an information, as it's the case with Julian Assange, you're an editor. You're not the one at the origin of the information. So you should be more protected. You have to understand that also Assange, is publishing the information that has been revealed to him. But what the US says is like also, he's like doing himself some cyber espionage and getting himself some information. But from Julian Assange and Wikileaks' point of view, he's just an intermediary. He's the one whistleblowing. He's the one sharing the information that he considers to be of fundamental importance.
And, cut to the chase,
how much have we learned with those revelations? A lot. There is still probably a lot to know, and I think it's of fundamental importance to protect those whistleblowers. As we protect sources furnishing information to journalists, we need to protect those people that raise fundamental issues to create awareness in the general society. No matter what informations are, if they are of public interest, they should be released. And so I have a question for you as well, like how would you describe Julian Assange?
It's really easy to ask and hard to answer. I would describe him as a risk taker. Again, liberal person who cares about the freedom, let's say individual freedom. Somehow he managed to put his name in the history. I don't know if it's a good trade-off for getting 175 years in prison, but anyways, he fought and he's still fighting. And let's hope for the best of everyone.
Also, say to us in the comments, like, guys, what do you think about the case? If you think that, yeah, Assange is a whistleblower, if he's a journalist, if he's a citizen-dissident, or if he's a traitor, a spy, I mean, you can have your views. Tell us your point of view in bona fide, of course, as we try to do every time.
Yes, in our channel, you have full freedom of speech until you are limited by YouTube. And
that's a good point. Feel free to subscribe also to the channel and to put a like to this video if you want, and follow us on Instagram. We've opened an Instagram account with Rasim, so we would really like to see you there.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alex, as usual.
Thanks, Rasim, and so see you next time.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.